Okay, this is part 1 on a series of 7 lessons on index laws. So the first one that I have here is our rule when we are multiplying and when we have the same base, and then we have some powers here and what we can do with that. So this law says a to the power of m times a to the power of n is equal to a to the m plus n. So we are adding those indices. So having a look at how this works, so for the first one I'm just going to break it down and show you why it works. So we can write a to the power of 3 as a times a times a. Then we can write a to the power of 4 as a times a times a times a. So when we look across our line, we've got a to the power of 7. Now if we check that, 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. That's how the rule works, or the law works. Having a look at our next example here, a to the power of 5 times a to the power of 7. Obviously when we get bigger numbers, we're not going to want to write them all out. And that's why we can use our law. So we can get a to the power of 5 plus 7 is a to the power of 12. It also works if we have the base as a number, and this is where a lot of students will make a big error here and they'll do 2 times 2 is 4. If we look back to our one with our letters, we didn't change our a. A stayed the same, we just added the indices. That's what we're going to do here. So we're going to keep our 2 and we're going to do 4 plus 6, which gives us 2 to the power of 10. If it was a small power, we could then write it as the digits, like if it was 2 squared, we could write 4, etc. When we get to the bigger power like 10, we can leave it there. Also be aware of what the question asks you, if it wants you to evaluate it or if it just wants you to simplify. So if it's simplifying, we leave it in the form like this. If it says evaluate, we would work out what that number is on our calculator and write that down. The last type we've got here is where we have some coefficients as well as our pronumeral raised to a power. So these numbers here, so like we had the 2 there, these don't have powers. So we just do 2 times 3 is 6. And then we do the indices added for the b's because we've got the same base there. If this had been a 2, obviously we would do 2 times 2, which is 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. But because neither of them have any powers, we can simplify that. Our 3 plus 4 then becomes 7. So we're left with 6b to the power of 7. In the next one, I'll be looking at the law when we are dividing our terms.